Hello, testing, testing. Check, check, check.
Hello. Oh, okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming to our lower primary camp information session. We're having to use the microphone because we've got the live feed there as well for people who are watching it online. So they can't hear us if we haven't got the microphone on. It's great to have so many people here. Hopefully, this session will give you a bit of an idea about the lower primary camp and the experiences your child's going to go through. And it's also a good opportunity for you to ask some questions of Wanda, who's here, who's representing the camp company today. So without further ado, if Ms. Wanda would like to come up.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, parents. I feel a little bit like a movie star, though I'm not, because I'm being filmed, and it's the first time I'm talking into a live feed. My name is Wanda, and I work with A-Team Adventures. I'm also a registered teacher. I was teaching in Canada. I was just having a conversation with Fraser. I've been teaching in Canada for about 6-7 years before I came to Hong Kong, and then I taught also in international school in Hong Kong before coming to work with A-Team. So I do understand the need for curriculum implementation. And I want to say that IMS has worked very, very hard. I've worked with Teresa throughout the entire first 3 months when school started to make sure that the curriculum that they've taught in the school will be reflected on the day trips that these kids are going to. Now, as you know, IMS has 1, 2, 3 levels, and they're all in the same class. And I was just telling the parents, we work with about 12 different schools in Hong Kong, and I would have to say the kids from IMS are some of the most calm and respectful kids because they are in 3 different levels. And I do feel that the older ones are genuinely helpful, and the younger ones are genuinely wanting to ask questions. And it is an incredible system. So, but because we have taken them to a farm last year, we had to think of ways that we're going to build progression from what we did last year to what they're going to go to do to this year and then next year to make sure that there is progression in that reflects what they're learning in school as well. So that's something that the school and I have been working on. We did have another camp in mind. We were going to go back to the same farm last year, but we actually found a better place, and I'm going to tell you why it's a better place. I'm going to play a very short 2-minute video, actually 2 minutes and 54 seconds, and you'll be able to see a little bit about the farm. The 2 farmers are actually Canadian Chinese who've returned back to Hong Kong to try to make a difference. And they're the only farm in Hong Kong right now that is producing aquaponics. And I don't know if you know what aquaponics are. So I'll explain that in a little bit. And they do an incredible educational experience on their farm. And we're going to take your child there to learn about all the different cycles of hydroponics, aquaponics, and organic farming, and just basically widen their horizons of the ability to grow food and how we can sustain that. All right, I'm going to play the video, please.
Welcome to Yi Farm. I'm Teresa and here's our team. We are located in Hong Kong. Probably you can't imagine we do have farms in a commercial and financial city. We built this farm because we want to have a simple, green, and quality life.
而家向呢邊行啦，行咗呢度之後，咁跟住點咧？咁樣又要諗下佢點樣可以落到跌咗個雪櫃。 做啲咁嘅嘢，因為佢唔需要食呢啲，可唔可以影錄啊？啊，你可以點樣做能量啊？
We would like to raise our community awareness on environmental protection through workshops and tours.
Right. So the video of the PowerPoint should be. So eFarm, although they are not a non-profit, they are a social enterprise, which means that everything that they do brings sort of benefits to the community. They work with local farmers in the area that has lost their job because of urbanization. They used to be rice farmers, and so what Teresa has done is she's actually brought them onto her farm and they work there. But they do so many different educational programs. I'm going to talk a little bit about them. The field trip takes place between April 24th to April 28th. So different classes will be going on different days, and Bill has organized all of that already. So parents, you'll know which class is going when. So I'm going to give you a test, first of all, because we always give the kids these fun quizzes when they come. So how many how many bees are needed to produce a teaspoon of honey in a bee's lifetime? And a bee's lifetime is 4 to 5 months. A teaspoon of honey. Is it A, 1 month, 12 months, 24, or 36? Sorry, how many bees, not lived yet. So how many bees do you think in their lifetime? One bee? Any other ones? 12, yes, all right. So it takes 12 bees their entire lifetime, 4 to 6 months, to produce 1 teaspoon of honey. All right, the next one. How long does it take for a rack of bananas to grow from flower to fruit? 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, or 1 year? Huh? Yeah, so they grow from banana, from the flower like this to the banana until they're yellow, until you can harvest them. 1 day. D, oh, sorry, 1 year, okay. 6, you're right, it's 6 months. So, you know, it is a long time for, you know, when we go and have bananas, when we buy from the supermarkets, we don't realize how long it takes for food to grow. And not to say that, you know, we're completely disconnected from it, but I think it's really important for the children to know where their food source comes from and how food can be recycled back into nature. So, I was in China maybe about 4 years ago, and we did a study with Hong Kong University, and this really touched me, and that was another reason why I really pushed this with a lot of schools. We went to interview several rural villages and farmers, and when we asked them, why are you using chemical fertilizers? And the one thing they said to us was, we don't have any other method of not using chemical fertilizer. It's not because it's cheaper. It's not because that we're forced to, but because the system no longer works. And we couldn't really understand the system until we interviewed more of them. And basically, you know, in a rural village, you have about 600 to 1,000 people living there. They would have cows and pigs and chickens, and all of that would go back. The manure would go back to the farmland. Human waste went back to the farmland. You know, so the whole thing was a closed system where we take from nature and we grow, and then we defecate and we return to nature. And if you look at cows, that's what they do. You know, pigs, that's what they do. But when we live in the city and we flush our waste down the toilet and it goes to a water filtration plant, and then the water is cleaned, but then the waste is dumped in a landfill. So that circle is no longer a closed circle, you know. And so what happens, you know, there isn't any choice, and we still expect the land to produce, but we're not giving anything back at all. And we're trying to really teach the kids to really value that, because I know in the school they're working really hard to do some gardening. They're working hard to do composting as well. And composting is one way, you know, if we're not talking about difficult things like flushing down the toilet and being able to retrieve that waste. Composting is something that each one of us can do to actually make sure the end products of what we eat returns to the land. And yet not every one of us, particularly in the city, can actually perform that because it goes to the landfill. So when you have a land that we're expecting to produce and produce, there is no other way. Chemical is the only way. So it really hit me really hard, and I thought, okay, we've really got to teach the kids how to be able to respect the earth and how to actually know how food actually is produced. So they're going to spend one day at eFarm, and it's quite an interesting farm because it has something called an aquaponics system. And for the parents who don't know what an aquaponics system is, it is a closed system. It's the only closed system, really, in the sense that the fish is there and the water is recycled. So they drain this naturally through gravitation, and all of the fish, the fish feces and so forth, is actually removed, and it goes into the land, and then the water is siphoned out clean and it goes back into the pond, so that the full system is closed and you can reuse the water again. And all of the sort of the dirty water is, or the one that's fertile, I would say the fertile water is used in the land. And the kids actually learn about this when they're there. Through these tanks. So this is where the water is siphoned, and the tanks are used here. The pointer doesn't work. Oh, here it is. Where they're actually, that's water going through it, and they're fed with, they're worked with solar panels. So they're going to learn a little bit about solar energy as well, and how the nutrients from the plants are taken from the water, which is actually the pee and the poo from the fish. So that's an aquaponics system which we'll be looking at. But they also do a lot of different types of composting, and they work with the school, a local school in that area, which they take all of their food waste. And I hope that one day they'll be able to work with schools like IMS when they grow bigger as well, and other international schools. They take about 150 kilos a day of food waste from this school that has about 1,000 students. And they grind this up and they feed it to their black soldier flies, and the larvae goes into the fish to feed the fish, and then all of the other byproducts goes into the field. So that's another closed system that the students will be actually looking at. This will be their picnic and debriefing area, and it's actually covered, and there's quite a few sheltered areas for rain and sun as well. And they will actually be engaging in some planting, doing some easy sort of transplanting actually of plants. They'll be doing some weeding and learning about soil science. They'll also be harvesting some vegetables and learning how to preserve, and we did some pickling last year, so we'll be doing a different type of pickling and preserving, looking at how to dry them and to salt them as well. So how do you keep food, and learn the system from farm to table. It's the farm to table, is not from supermarket to table, but that system, how does that work, and how do we bring food and preserve food until it gets to our tables? They will be foraging for some of the herbs in the area. Teresa's got a really large herb garden and some herb spirals, which the kids will go and actually learn about smelling and tasting, and they get to actually nibble around. And then they'll make a salad as well, and they can actually try that on the farm. They'll learn about the soil, and this was IMS last year, and the soil habitat. So we'll take soil from the compost and we shake it, and they actually see all the little worms and all the little bugs in there as well. And they do a quick count of how many it is in there and how big a square inch of soil they've taken, and they look at that. And first you tell the kids to dig in, and they dig in and their hands get dirty, and then you tell them, now your hands are all full of worm poo, because that's basically what it is. And they all scream for 2 seconds, but then they continue to dig, and they actually learn to really like the activity. And so we're going to progress from that this year as well. But yeah, they will have actually a magnifying glass, and they will be looking at smaller creatures and the habitat in the soil. So our schedule will not change from last year. We're still going to meet outside of the Pier 6 at 8:30, and then we're going to be bused there. It's about an hour, all right? And the kids will get there, they'll have their little snack break and their toilet break, and we'll do a quick safety debrief and how the day is run. And then they go through all the activities that I just told you. And then at the end, we do a little reflection of what they learned that day and what was important and some of the lessons they're going to take back with them. And then we take, they do another little toilet break, and then we go back to Centro, and then we meet the parents back in Centro there. We're hiring the bus, so they'll be all on the bus, and all of the instructors will be there in Centro like last year to wait for the students, and we travel on the bus all together. There's a lot of front loading the school has done already, Teresa and her team, so that they've looked at different, they've looked at some of the planting and how seeds grow, and I think some classes even recorded how many days it takes to seed, so they'll be doing some transplanting this year, as opposed to just planting seeds was what they did last year as well. And some of the classes might have already looked at the different layers of the forest, or being able to identify what is the difference between a vine and then, you know, a canopy tree, all right, and then tubers, which are like these, you know, when they pull out carrots and beetroot, they'll be pulling out some beetroots this year actually for us. And so there's a bit of front loading in the school as well. And then of course there is the after math of that as well, which is the students will actually learn to actually grow and do transplanting and be able to identify all those things in the garden that they work with in the school. So that's, Bill's got that already, and that's it. So if you have any questions, please let me know. It's quite a scientific day. Like, they do have little microscopes, and they are going to go in there with their hands and look at the little tiny bugs, and they learn about wild cockroaches as well, you know, something that hasn't been domesticated, and they're these like flat black things, and you know, they get to hold them and, you know, take a photo, and little worms and different kinds of worms. And so, you know, it kind of really gets them dirty, but at the same time, not to be afraid of these things, because their vegetables is grown from that. And without these microorganisms, we wouldn't be here today. Yeah, yes. The farm is actually in Hoc Tau. It is in the New Territories, in the Yuen Long area. Yeah, there'll be bus there, yeah. Yeah, they meet at the ferry. Yeah, that's correct. Exactly the same as last year, no changes at all. And one of the reasons why we chose this farm is because I've been talking to Teresa. She really wants to look at cycles next year. So if we return, then we really want to get the kids into I showed you the bugs, but they actually have a bug lab at the farm, which we're not going to go into this year, but next year I would love to take the kids. Actually, it's right here. So you see this little house in the back, that's where actually they grow the black soldier flies, and there are microscopes in there, and there are you actually look at, you know, this animal and the life cycle. It's pretty incredible. It's like a house fly, but it you know, once it becomes out of its larvae, it doesn't eat anything at all, so it doesn't cause any environmental harm, and so it produces in its lifetime 5,000 eggs, you know, and the kids get to learn about that and how it goes back into the fish system and seeing it hatch. And so we really want to make it a lot more scientific for the kids, and being able to progress them to that. So this year they're just going to get a very simple introduction into what aquaponics are, and like, you know, they learned about the water cycle and how it siphons. They're now going to learn about how the food cycle siphons, the aquaponics cycle, and so they're going to learn about cycles and closed cycles next year. So that's, yeah, that's what we're trying to do. It's basically to add more value to what the school is doing as well, and to work with them to make sure that what they want is reflected in what we do on that day. Yeah. Yay. So yeah, so they you know, don't let them wear anything that's white. I don't know if Bill, are they wearing uniforms? Okay, okay, so they'll be in their uniforms, and so that's fine. Yeah, they will be muddy. It will be, yes. No need. Yeah, just they will have a little bit of mud on their shoes. It's not wet or anything, but yeah, but when they water and you step on it, and you know, there's a little bit of mud. Yeah. That's it. No. So I know IMS has a real passion and a consciousness about food waste as well, and we're really hoping the kids will be really empowered by this to do more, because the little black soldier flies area we're talking about, they collect 150 kilograms a day, and they turn that into food for the black soldier flies that produce 10 kilograms, actually no, 15 kilograms of larvae a day. So, you know, and that all goes back into the fish and it goes back into the farm. So it can be done and it can be recycled, and they are looking to work with more schools. So hopefully this is something that they can progress to as well. Yeah. No? Well, I encourage parents to go there as well. We'll send out the address, because on the weekends they have little family things, not really educational like the ones that we're doing, but you know, just a tour around so you get to see it. Yeah. Okay. Great. And should you have any questions, then just let Bill know, and then he'll send me a text or an email, and I'll answer it to the best of my ability. Yay. So here's the pathways right through. Yeah, and it's just into, when they get into the fields like this, they're going to be dirty. And another interesting thing about progression is that this year, although we're not working on it, but Teresa and I were thinking about getting the kids to starting to measure maybe next year the pH level between a hothouse, a greenhouse, and a non-greenhouse, because they have quite a number of greenhouses in the back here, and the temperature remains the same at night as it is during the day. And so how does that affect growing? You know, is that what climate change is about, when the earth is a greenhouse? So getting kids to really start thinking about that. And as long as there's a demand from IMS of how they want to progress the curriculum, we will continue to find different places for them so that the students can experience that and learn about the difference as well. Yeah. Yeah. And then probably shorts. The only reason why we suggested long pants is mosquito bites, you know, and I think, so if they have something very thin, then I think that's doable. And also because they're an organic farm and they're quite strict about it, all the soap that they use on the farm is homemade. It's sort of, you know, vinegar, homemade vinegar from orange peels and stuff like that. There is an area that we'll get to get the kids to spray them before they get into farm. Like, it's quite a large area. It's about the size of half of this classroom, and you know, it's a flat area, and we'll spray them before we actually walk down to the farm. We're going to do it, yeah, the instructor. So we will have mosquito repellent there and stuff like that. But I don't recommend you taping the, you know, parents, you know how you've taped the little mosquito things? They come off, and when they're in the soil and stuff, they just come off, and so it doesn't really work. I would rather spraying them a little bit instead of taping the little yellow mosquito patches. That's right, yes.
Okay, thank you.